And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the galaxy. It's I, John D. and Kanika, a.k.a. And Too Much Podcast. Good afternoon, young lady.
Hello.
What's going on with you?
Nothing much, you.
Still thinking about me falling violently yesterday. I do want you guys to know this. All right, so those of you that don't know, I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. November 17th is our Founders Day, and I was up at 3. Typically, I wake up at 4. I was up at 3, and I ended up going to Detroit, and I went to a frat meeting, and then we went out to the after party, and I didn't get home till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And typically I wake up at every day at 4, but I woke up at 5, and I was up for the day. And I went to go donate plasma I had like 2 boiled eggs and a smoothie I had created. And by like 12:30, my body was trying to shut down. And I'm telling you, like I felt like I was getting lightheaded. And I was like, let me just finish this last piece of chicken. And then maybe Kanika can finish it. And then I was like, okay, let me go just lay down real quick. So I'm trying to walk to the couch. Now in my head, I'm like, if I can make it to the couch, I can just fall out. But I was like, if I can't make it to the couch, I'm going to just fall on the ground safely. I just know that I woke up with Kanika in my face saying, John, are you okay? I'm like, yeah.
Completely disoriented. But so I'm looking at the stove, and all of a sudden I hear this like bam. And I turn around, and John's nowhere to be seen. So I start walking around the island, and his little feet were sticking out like the Wicked Witch of the West from under the house.
Because I had striped socks on.
I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, John, he's looking so disoriented. But the funniest part was when this dude said, oh, I meant to get on the floor.
I did. She was like, you meant to fall so violently?
It's like, John, you fell violently. Look, that was not I'm not feeling safe. Let me sit down and get on the floor before I hurt myself. It was like, bam.
So, no, I know I get it now. But that was what crossed in my head, that if I just laid on the ground, if I can't make it to the couch, just lay on the ground immediately.
Okay.
So when I fell, I just remembered, like, that was an option. For real. So when I said it to you, I was like, she don't even believe me.
No,
but,
not the way that hit. Not the way that hit.
I think I blacked out before I could get to the. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but that was sure.
Nobody's gonna fall like that on purpose.
No, that wasn't your safe second plan. That was like, boom, that happened because you didn't make it to the couch in the end. And it's like he even had the ability to fall on carpet. It was on the hard floor.
Oh yeah, it was.
So yeah.
But
he's been laughing about it for a day and a half now.
Because she said, why did you fall so violently if it was on purpose?
Yeah.
She could not understand that.
Because I knew it wasn't on purpose.
No, the thought was on purpose. The way that I failed, yes. It didn't, because I blacked out too soon.
I know.
But this is the thing. I was on my back when you found me. Yeah, it's kind of hard to fall on your back.
Well, you were on your side, and I was trying to roll you over. Your little arm was over your head. I was like...
Yeah, that was different.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, but I'm good now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was just a matter of low blood sugar.
Yeah, for sure.
And exhaustion.
Being tired, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was funny. It wasn't funny in the moment, but it was.
Look, I tell you this. She was definitely smiling in my face like, why did you fall so violently? Like, she wasn't like concerned. Because by then
you was sitting there trying to lie. How you coming straight out of...
I was trying to.
He faded and then go come with a lie immediately. It's like this video I saw. A man driving down the street. The old man was driving, and he falls asleep. And as soon as they start going off the road, he wakes up immediately. That bastard almost ran. How you wake up and you immediately in your lie?
I was worried about you being concerned. I'm just happy that it wasn't worse than what it was.
I agree.
Because I definitely told you I was okay.
Yeah.
Before I knew I was okay.
Yeah. No, I could see in your face that you were, and I was like, oh, this dude is disoriented as fuck. Poor thing. Oh, but you made it.
I did.
Here we are laughing about it later. It's okay.
We are. So what is on your mind this wonderful afternoon?
So recently there was the interview between Jeezy and Nia Long, and everybody was talking about it. For one, there was a statement he made, and you always talk about how you talk to your friends and, you know, men think this and men think that. And so I wanted to get your take on the statement. So he said, essentially, it was kind of like when we're having a hard time or we need black women, number one, he said, have that nurturing way about them. And he also said, when I need to be somewhere in a safe space, you know, we need our sisters, is what he was saying. And a lot of people were mad because, number one, he's divorcing his wife, Jenny. I forget what her last name is, but she's an Asian woman. And black women were taking it as, oh, you need us when things are going bad for you. You need us to nurture you or whatever, but you're not in relationships with us. You're not actively doing blah, 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 blah. And so, not to say that blah, blah, blah is not important, but we all know the arguments that black women will make about that, because we feel very strongly about a large number of black women will say they exclusively date black men, even knowing that the men that they're holding out for, they also consider other women as options. And so that lessens our ability to continue to grow our community. And I think also black women take up that responsibility of, it's our responsibility to protect and grow our community. So we get some kind of way about men who go establish relationships with other women in other groups, and then to come back and say, but we need our sisters. And when I listen to him, my interpretation, I know that we immediately think of it as you need to come back to the black woman. But I interpreted that as, when he said sisters, he was talking about sibling relationships, like having someone to talk to and support you, not completely taking the racial part out of it, but saying that we need to have conversations with one another and support and communicate with one another as a group in life, not necessarily solely in a romantic sense. But everybody's interpretation was like, oh, you know, you would da.
I think that came because of the clip, because I did think that with the clip. Mm-hmm. But watching the whole thing through the context, I got what you got.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and it's easy. I struggle with the whole idea of, like, I understand women's gripe about that, because we want to have children, we want to love our man, we want to do, and sometimes that just doesn't, it's not panning out for us. So that clip, to me, it just raised the blood pressure of black women in this, you know, let me make sure that I rile up just a little bit of anger between these two groups by giving this clip without any other idea of what other conversation. Like, they could have clipped a few different things that were discussed. There were even certain sentences that he said that made me feel like if they would have put that in there, then it maybe wouldn't have created as much of a
stir.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I guess I'm wondering, like, I love being mothering and nurturing. Mm-hmm. And I do understand that a lot of times the black woman holds that's one of the jewels in our crown. Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point, sometimes we're not portrayed that way. We're only portrayed that way, I think, when people need us to be that way. Then it's like, this is who she is. But when we're portrayed in a general sense, like, it's usually negative. But I had written a question down to myself when I initially listened to this because a friend had asked me to. And I was saying, why is that our responsibility to be the mothering and nurturing of those who need us?
You said why?
Why because he said that we're their safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, why do we have to have that responsibility and be the safe space when we can't necessarily say that Black men are our safe space all the time? Because sometimes they carry the anti-Black woman banner just as strongly as other groups. So
who carries the anti-Black?
Black men. Like, they're Black men. You know how they say, like, people are more likely to write a negative Google review on something than to write the positive. And just like this post, it seems like messages that amplify dissension in the ranks, like the problem between those Black men who speak ill of Black women. We hear the messaging more than we hear of that we work well together. And so,
I mean, it's easy to not hear the message of working well together, because if your messaging's coming from entertainment,
yeah,
like, so you're going to see their relationships. And what stability do you have in entertainment or music or professional living? Because they live a life that we have no idea and what it actually entails. And then you have people, like regular people that got regular jobs, that want to live their life something like that. It's like they live differently. So with us, I feel like it's easy to get the messaging when whatever you're watching is that example. Their life is the example of what relationships look like. So if you think about it, growing up, if you were to think of the 3 most prominent relationships that was people of color, what would you say?
You mean in like
out of your life, the 3 most prominent, like I can answer that if you, The Cosby Show,
okay,
Barack Obama and Michelle Obama,
okay,
Will Smith and Jada Smith.
yeah.
Like, to me, I feel like these are the examples. You know what I'm saying? But then, how many Black couples did we see not make it? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it overshadows all the ones that did make it, and then you still beat up the ones that are together and they go through turmoil because you feel like they shouldn't. So it's all about the difficulty of actually having a relationship that's going to work. So think about it. You've seen way more relationships fail than succeed.
Yeah.
On TV at that. So that's the messaging is right there. It's like, they can't even do it and they got money.
Yeah, they can afford the therapy. So have you seen Black women as a safe space for you?
Honestly, I felt like anybody who's willing to listen was a safe space, because I told you, I felt like if I gave you enough information, you would understand where I was. So it's difficult to judge me because you would understand. And I think that's why I was so, like, other people's like, I'm closed in. I'm not letting anybody know anything. Like, are you that important for somebody to take advantage of you? You know, so to me, I just operated differently. Here's my story. Like, it was always that. I didn't know I was doing that, but people less likely talked about me because it was like, have you heard this story? Should you understand?
I guess I've always seen Black women as my safe space. I haven't
For
seen
you?
Black men. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, like, see, that's what I'm saying. I've been vulnerable with men, and men say, hey, you're a little giving too much information. To who? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you going to use it against me or something? What does that look like? So to me, I definitely talked to more women than I did men, because the men kind of just stayed the same, you know. But I don't know what the safe space was, but I just always felt safe with telling. I guess the only things I didn't want people to tell was if it involved with people outside of me. Then, but other than that, I can't say that I can say Black women were a safe space, because I never felt endangered.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you know, I've always questioned that about you. Like you do
reveal so much information.
absolutely. And sometimes it involves me, and I
I
used
know,
to be super
and I didn't,
hella mad about
but
that.
I didn't know that. I can say, looking back, even then, I was like, I don't know why she's getting mad. Like, I love her. I love you. It's okay.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Let me tell some of Kanika's deepest, darkest secrets as they're connected to mine, honey."
And I didn't know.
love you.
Look, I know, like for
I'm
real.
exposing you because I love you. It's
Like
okay.
I remember he was like, "Man, you just be talking too much." I was like, "About what?" And in my head, I'm like, "I'm not embarrassed about anything." Like,
yeah.
I just looked at it that way, and you know, it took me a long time. I guess even in the last 5 years, when I figured it out, it was like I'm talking too much. I guess in Abu Dhabi, I was like, okay, I won't do that anymore. And it just, I just like, dang, she really is bothered by that.
Heck yeah.
I didn't know how bothered you were.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how does it bother her? It don't bother me.
Yeah, and so even as my husband, you weren't my safe space either.
I was not.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to be. But to me, I didn't know that was keeping you safe the way that. That way. To me, I was keeping us safe.
By giving all our information up.
Yeah, because then everybody be like, okay, I can see why they're doing the way that they are. Like, you know, they're different. We were different though. I know it's because of my practices.
Yeah, yeah.
But overall, I did think that's what I was doing.
You know, in you talking, that's the first time I've ever said that particular statement, that you couldn't be my safe space. Mm-hmm. Even though I understood that you couldn't, I don't think I've ever really vocalized that to myself.
That's what reason why I know that you can't be vulnerable with me yet, because I think it's still like, oh no. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, that's what I'm saying. I can recognize some things that you say. I'm like, she's not ready for that. Cause like I know. Mm-hmm. I can hear it. But yeah. I'm sorry for not being able to be your safe space. But I can say this, that if I'm not ready, I'm working toward it. Yeah. Constantly.
Well, and I think part of it is you feeling like my story becomes like, if you're connected to someone and you're at any point involved in that person's life, you feel like a part of their story belongs to you and you can be able to speak on it. And that you never really paid attention to. I think that you learned young as a child that people would talk about you. And so you learned how to talk about people and how to own up some of the things they used to make fun of you about. And then you'd be like, oh, so you was like running around here being little Eminem 8 Mile early on, you know, and it's like, you know, if I already know all of this stuff, what can you really do to bother me? Yeah. And so you operated off that. Okay, well, let me just expose some of the holes and then nobody can really say anything about me. And then you translated that onto me. I remember you used to translate a lot of that onto your sister because you guys had a shared experience growing up, even though they always say you could grow up in the same house with the same parents and still not grow up in the same house with the same parents. Yeah. And so, yeah.
I definitely did that to her.
Yeah. It's I think now that you're more guarded with what you say, I feel safer being vulnerable with you. But I definitely recognize that early on there were no limits to what you felt were acceptable conversations. Yeah. And even though people, like, I think applauded you on that sometimes, even though they looked at you questionably, like, why is he doing that? But, and it's like, oh, you know, John, I get it now. That gave you even more encouragement to continue to do that.
I know.
But for someone like me who's very private,
and that
was really hard.
I wish I would have known what I was doing to you during that time, because I definitely didn't know. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when I got it, I was like, that's what you meant? That was another moment too for me. And I was like, dang. I thought that was cool.
I really like, did. You know, all the time she told me it wasn't no.
She did. And you know what made me think, because previous conversation, you said, John, you told me that your relationship was going to be conditional. Like, I was telling you, just like you were telling me, and I was just like, I know better for her. We're going to go this way.
I was like, this dude is leading me into, yeah. Well, and then there was another thing that they were talking about. Leadership. And she was like, well, it depends on where you leading me to and if I want to be led there. I thought that was interesting because, you were definitely trying to lead me in places. And I was like, I do not want to be there. This is not the place I want him to lead me to. But I was still going in that direction still. He was still exposing me. And I was still saying, John, hey, please stop exposing me. It's like, you mind, buddy?
So that's what I can say. I say that I think all women want to be led. In my experience or perspective, just looking, all women want to be happy with their partner, whoever it may be.
Absolutely.
But the man doesn't, particularly don't have enough information, so they want it to look like what they think it's supposed to look like. And that's where the disconnect becomes with the woman, because a woman does want to be led. But if you look like you don't know what you're doing, regardless if she's never seen something before, she's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. That's a really big disconnect, because the women that I've had conversations with, none of the women have ever said they don't want to be led. Like, they want to not have to think through every single thing. One thing I will say is I've tried my best as we've been married to let you lead us in the direction we're going to go. But I'm always hoping that you continue to consider me as wise counsel. And I don't think it's always been done. However, I think that was the concept I always wanted to go by. Like, I don't want to be the one to lead, but I definitely want to be that counsel that's in your ear, that advisor. And then you be like, yeah, I can see how that can work. And then you say, we're going to go in this direction. Or I can see how what you're saying, let me take that into consideration before we make these steps. I want to know that you're trusting me. Like, I'm not just riding blind.
Yeah.
And that goes into the conversations when men talk about submission and leading women and how women don't want to be led. It's not that. It's just we don't want to go off the cliff with you. Like, if you haven't even shown me you had a driver's license, then why would I let you take the wheel?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a part where, like, women are taught to be like this now, because we're constantly watching our mothers, our grandmothers, and our aunts all kind of take the wheel. And I think we've talked about this before, even with me being worried about how I mother Dallas, that I don't want Dallas to be a man who has to have a woman think for him in every situation. Like, I want him to be able to guide and be able to say, this is the way in which we should go. And I know that you have to teach him that. But I'm hoping that from my position, I'm teaching him that he should be listening to his partner to help in making the decision in which way to go.
Correct.
And I want Day to learn to make the decisions when she's by herself, but when she's in a partnership, understanding that, we're making these decisions to go somewhere. And in the end, he's going to lead us. He's going to forge the way, but he's constantly listening to me as I'm guiding, like, okay, we need to watch out for this, or this is what's coming up from the left or from the right when you can't see. And I think that was another thing with you and I is, I was always trying to warn you of stuff, and you thought I was being paranoid or over the top, and I might have been sometimes, but I was always saying what I was saying in order to make sure that if this happens, I want you to know that this is on the left. This is on your right side, and I'm watching all around you so you can focus on the 12 o'clock. I'm watching the 3 and the 9, and I'm even turning around on the 6. And it's so much more helpful when a man understands that a woman's position is to watch those other positions so that you can forge us forward. And I don't think that men are being taught what leadership really looks like.
How can you teach men that if they don't have a relationship with a man that actually knows what it looks like?
Yeah, I understand. And that's crazy because we're constantly being taught how to run the show. And y'all are not being taught at all. And in the end, it's like they want to younger men, I can't even say younger men, sometimes older men who are just not fully
developed.
It's like a dictatorship. They think that their leadership should look like a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And there's no partnership. So it's really hard for us to get there, but I'm only saying that because they did speak on leadership, but I didn't feel like the conversation, and I think you said this to me, it didn't really feel like it was a deep conversation that was had in the talk between Jeezy and Nia, but it was a good representation of
the conversations you don't have with the opposite sex.
Yes. Like we don't have, I know everybody was jumping on the, when men say sister, it wasn't like, and it might be just that I'm on this, but when some people, I remember growing up, they'd be like, we love our sisters, da 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 da. He said sister. And to me, that was like a confidant, somebody who just like how I look at my actual brother. I need to be able to talk to my brother about this because he'll help me. I need to be able to talk to my best friend is a female and she's my sister. And so I can get wise counsel from her. And that's what I got from the conversation. When you think back, how many females were truly like that sister, that wise counsel for you? Absolutely not about sex at any point in time. There was no romantic relationship. It was really your sister.
They kind of gave me the real Melissa. I think that she showed me different responses that women because most of the women for the most part were attracted to me that I can see. And I was probably attracted to them, and so it was kind of skewed, but Melissa always was able to establish a boundary and keep it as consistent as possible as far as when it came to delivering information.
Yeah.
So there was no the expectation was always, I already knew what I was getting. So when you can say that, I can say that. Like even for Jamaica, like she and I don't have conversations like me and Melissa had conversations, I guess because we were just in different places in life.
Pause for a second.
Yeah.
Just to give everyone the idea, Jamaica is your childhood from high school best friend.
Yes.
And Melissa is
someone I met in college. Yeah.
And we ended up living in Atlanta at the same time. Yeah. And so go ahead.
And then just looking at it, like, I think Melissa and I had more things in common than me and Jamaica did. And the relationship we established more of a relationship over the course of time being in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So the sisterly aspect, I think I could. She was, I guess she's the only one that I can say that, because everybody else to me, if I introduced them to some information, they would always empathize with me. It wasn't like,
calling you out.
Yeah, I don't think, because at the end of the day, I always thought I was right.
Absolutely.
So to get some different information, it was rare.
Absolutely. But you know what? You're right, because even though Melissa was your friend, she definitely adopted me early on. And when we used to talk to her about the other, she would never immediately discount either side. When I used to tell her stuff, she'd be like, okay, but you have to think on John's end and you have to think on mine. And she really was a wise counsel. And I'm really glad you had her. I'm glad you had her because I also was able to experience a friendship and love with her as well. So out of all of your 45 years, one friend
that I can think of, and it may be some other ones, but even out of guys, rare, because it's almost like I literally wrote the story and they like the story enough for to be like, that's the way it should be. You know, and
so you're saying you didn't get a lot of pushback
I
or
did not.
reality checking from?
No,
okay,
I did not. I think I'll give you an example of one reality check, and it was like me being it was me being just going out.
Okay.
Hey John, no fighting tonight.
Because we already know who you are.
That's what I'm saying. So it was like
that was the reality check-in of.
Yeah, like we're correcting. Like I'm like, and I'm still looking at them like it don't even be me. But you know, I do. I mean, it wasn't me. It was because of my facial expressions. It looked like I want you to come punch me because I'm gonna punch you first or something.
You had a punchable face?
Apparently. but to me, I didn't get that many reality checks. Like dang, they might be like, John, you didn't went too far on that one, but it was a laugh. It was like, you know,
it wasn't correction.
It was not, and I didn't look at it that way. It was almost like, yeah, I'm good. So yeah, I didn't get that.
How did you do with correction though?
Oh, with you, I did it fairly quickly. Like, because whenever you were correcting me in things that I felt like I'd never heard of before, I'd always started working on it, even though I probably give you back. Like, I don't need to be doing that. Like, because in my head, I'm like, I'm already doing it right. But then it was sinking like, why did she say that? I don't want her to say it again. So I'm going to start working on it.
I don't want to hear her mouth. So
I don't, but you know, all of the things I look back now, like it only made me a better person. It made me more polished version. Like the people that they see, the people is a reflection of my friends, but it's a lot of you saying this could be improved, but not saying it that way. You know, if you didn't like something, like why wouldn't you like it? And then I figure it out. I'm like, okay, I don't need to be doing that anymore. A lot of the things that I've done over that you said, it was just an accident or bad behaviors from before, but it wasn't like this one should make her mad.
You know what's going to take her down?
I'm going to do this again.
This is what I'm about to do.
But I'm act like I didn't. Don't do it on purpose.
Oh, I hate it. Well, you know, in my adult life, I haven't had any brothers outside of my brother, which my brothers are very supportive, and I feel like I can tell them a lot. I don't think I've had a male friend that I could talk to like that since Craig. And I didn't have him for long. Not that he's dead, but just because I had him in college, and when we graduated, life was lifing. And, you know, we had to move on. But that was a really hard friendship to let go, sizzle, and, you know, because you do need those people sometimes. I've never been at I've always had a female to talk to. I've always had women, multiple women that I felt like I could be completely vulnerable with. But men, no. So I can't really say that brother-sister relationship with other black men has ever really been there. You know what? And I remember when you first came back in July and we had that big fight in Atlanta. And I was like at my wit's end. I couldn't even. Kyle and Damon. I'm a crybaby today. Kyle and Damon hugged me so long. And one thing I will say, Damon, as joking as he can be, when he's serious and he's loving, he's serious. Kyle is a very, he's not going to have long drawn out conversations of feelings and stuff with you, but he gives you a very protective presence. And I've told him that before. But I've never sat down and had a feeling talk with either of them because they're your friends, even though they're family to us. But I was so glad to have that relationship with them where they felt like they could support me, that it further lets me know how important it is for us to have that brother-sister relationship with other men and women in our community. It can't just be closed into my brothers because my brothers grew up with me and they love me, and sometimes they won't see every way of seeing it. They're gonna see what would keep me safest or make me feel better.
Yeah.
We really, really have to seek out those brother-sister relationships in our community. And maybe it doesn't have to be just in the Black community, but because I feel like we have unique experiences, like we're not all the same. We don't all have the same experiences, but we have unique experiences where people of your same community there's a certain level of love or support that you have in there, even if you don't know what it is. You can do it. And like having this conversation, it makes me miss having that with male friends. I don't lack it in female, but we haven't talked to Melissa in years. So what do you think about yourself? And like, do you see that as something you need or no? Like having outside friend relationships.
Well, now I feel like where I am now, I'm that person. Like people, they avoid me because I'm going to give the truth. I'm the truth serum. Like I'm going to say, hey, this is what I see. I may be wrong, but I want you to win.
Yeah.
People don't want that. Like I think even the delivery of it all, a lot of people receive it. It's like, I can't force anybody to want a relationship with me.
Yeah.
Because they remember who I was, and maybe I didn't look like I was willing to grow or bend for whatever they needed at the time. But to me, I feel like things will come when it's supposed to. Like I've attempted to do several things like with people I don't talk to anymore, but I know who I am as a person. I know who I was then. And I just hated that I presented in a way for them to feel like it was easier to not deal with who I am. Because I know my heart. It's just that it was just hardened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't even think about things like that because it's one of those things where I can only do what I can do. And like I said, when the universe wants it to happen, it'll happen. But I'm comfortable with the position that I am in, like attempting and kind of just leaving things where it is.
Yeah. I hear you.
No doubt. Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
Yes. Craig.
No doubt.
Craig Valadez. He made some significant changes in the direction in my life just by being in my life, and I truly, truly appreciate him. And we should really make it a priority to see him.
For sure.
And Melissa for the exact same reason. And even though she's far, far away, like she was so monumental in points of our growth in a marriage. And so shout out to both of them.
For sure. Shout out to them, Craig and Melissa. Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA. Get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.